Hey guys, welcome. This is to our Northland Hobby. This is our second long form video that we're going to do today. So our previous one was with Mark Peacock, who is a previous Airfix magazine publisher. So today we're talking to Neil Lambess. He's a bit of a sci-fi whiz. So I'll let Neil introduce himself.
Okay. How's it going? I'm Neil. Some of you may remember me from a former Whangarei hobby shop called Replicant Hobbies, which I managed for a few years. So hi to all you guys that were my customers then. And I'd like to congratulate David, because the customers I have talked to have said it's really nice to have a decent hobby shop in Whangarei again. So well done, David.
Thanks, Neil.
You've turned the place around and everyone's happy. So
tell us about where. So today we're going to talk primarily about sci-fi modelling. So tell us about your foray into sci-fi modelling.
Sci-fi, yeah. And thinking about what I talk about for this talk, I actually realised that even though I'm primarily an aircraft modeller, I do a lot of sci-fi to relax. I've always been interested in sci-fi. And I suddenly realised that the very first model kit set I ever built was science fiction, and I brought it along. For those of you familiar with the TV show, it's Thunderbirds from 1965. My parents got me this one Christmas. I was about 3. It's a very simple and easy to assemble model kit set. So it's the star of the show, Thunderbird 2. And if you don't know what Thunderbirds is, do Google it and have a look at an episode. It's still got some of the best special effects ever put to film. So this just clicks together, and once I made the first one, it comes with a little electric motor. It's got wheels, so you can wheel it along. Had so much fun that I wanted all the rest in the set, so my poor parents ended up buying me the other 4. And over the years I went through probably about 4 or 5 of each kit, because they'd break. Unlike an injection molded kit set, these are made out of a very soft polyurethane vinyl, so you can't paint them, and they sort of bend really easily. But yeah, just earliest childhood memories were just playing with my Thunderbirds vehicles. And Thunderbirds really got me interested in that whole movie spaceships. Thunderbirds was created by a guy called Jerry Anderson and his wife Sylvia, but all the vehicles were designed by a guy called Derek Maddings, and he built the models as well and weathered them. And he was the very first person in the history of film to actually decide that you could use model kit set parts to detail a vehicle. So there's a video online, if you look for it, called Thunderbirds Airfix Girder Bridge. So when they were making Thunderbirds, they got a whole lot of Airfix kit sets of a girder bridge, which was part of the railway layout, and they're just everywhere. Like some of the buildings are made out of this girder bridge. There's bits of Thunderbird 2 that come from the girder bridge. In fact, I think the girder bridge ended up in short supply in England in the 1960s because they were using them in Thunderbirds. He was also the very first guy in film history to actually weather the models to make them look real. And up until that point, all through the 1950s and the 60s in science fiction movies, spaceships looked like toys because they were just painted silver. In some cases, they were actually hubcaps pretending to be a UFO, and they didn't even bother to paint the hubcap. It was just, oh yeah, that looks good on screen. Well, the result that everything looked fake. Meetings came along in this TV show, superb weathering. So that kind of inspired me to get into modelling, and I used to recreate episodes of Thunderbirds and blow up bridges and have trains going off cliffs and stuff like that. So very destructive, but a lot of fun to do. So flash from there, I got interested in aircraft kit sets. I met a really good friend of mine, Mark, at high school, and we just revitalised our love of building models. So not long after Thunderbirds came out, in the 1960, screened in New Zealand about 71, they did a live action TV show. Thunderbirds was all puppets. UFO had actual actors. And then after UFO, they went on to do a show called Space 1999. So this is another Derek Meddings designed vehicle. It's a submarine. It's called Skydiver. The whole idea is it's a submarine. When a UFO is sighted, they will tilt the submarine, and then this front half shoots off out of the water and shoots down the submarine. If you're familiar with RAF fighters, they're the rocket pods that you see on Harriers, and they were actually taken off a 24 scale kit of a Airfix Harrier when they were filming UFO. So to go back to weathering, Meddings came up with the idea that to make something look real, you've got to weather it. So he used a pencil weathering method. So what he did was he got a very soft pencil, like a 2B, he'd scrape all the dust onto a piece of paper, he'd rub his finger in it, so his finger became nice and black, and he put a very thin piece of sellotape there, and he'd start on the sellotape and streak backwards. And then you peel the sellotape off, and there's your panel line with a nice little subtle streak going backwards. If you did it too heavily, you just got a pencil rubber and just weathered it back. So in the 80s when I was in high school, I found a book written by Derek Meddings that explained how he did the models and how he designed them and his weathering techniques. And I just went, this is the best book I've ever read. So when I build a model of a fantasy subject, I'm trying to duplicate the model. So I'm building models of models, which is a bit like doing a painting of someone doing a painting of a painting of a painting. But it's a lot of fun. So later on I'll say where that doesn't work when I get to it. So this was a Japanese kit set made in the 1990s, but it was made out of vinyl, not plastic. Very few injection molded science fiction kits were made for a very long time. Because films have a certain shelf life, and if you're spending like $250,000 making a tool to make an injection molded one, you've got to be sure it's a movie that's going to last. Whereas some of the Thunderbird stuff, it's like, what's the shelf life? As it turns out, 60 years on, we're still issuing models of Thunderbirds. So a vinyl kit set has its own problems because vinyl likes to distort over time. So I had to stuff the whole interior of this with paper mache, lots and lots of paper mache, so that nothing moved.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because it's pulling itself apart.
Yeah, so it's like when you're building models, you've got to just use every technique you possibly can. But yeah, I owe my love of weathering to an unsung hero of model building, which is Derek Meddings, and the work he did on Thunderbirds.
Yeah. So moving on from vinyl, we start to see more and more plastic kit sets come out. And so the era that this started in was obviously the favourite, which is Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's heard of Star Wars. It was this obscure movie that came out in the 1970s. So this is a homage to the very first thing you see in Star Wars, which is Princess Leia's starship. It's the one with, I'll just turn it around, it's the one with all the engines at the back, because you hardly ever see the thing from the front, but it's the blockade runner. So Star Wars really kick-started injection molded plastic kit sets in 1977-78. I mean, they did the X-Wing, they did Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, then they did the Millennium Falcon, and they sold like hotcakes, and still do. You can still buy the original Millennium Falcon kit set from 1977. They've done a bit of tweaking to it. Design classics. But again, it all goes back to Derek Meddings, because George Lucas was a big fan of Thunderbirds. He loved the whole idea of putting kit set parts onto detail. Which is what Meddings invented, basically, putting parts of kit set. So I don't know if you can see it, but along here on the engines are the back plate or the ventilators from a Tiger tank. So there's Tiger tanks. There's another bit of the Tiger tank there. I think that's around the turret area.
Yeah.
It's called kit bashing. And also,
Fantastic.
as I said earlier, up until kind of Thunderbirds, all the spaceships and things looked like toys because they weren't weathered. The ILM model makers watched Thunderbirds over and over again and got the whole pencil weathering technique dirtying down the ships because Lucas wanted that used, lived-in atmosphere, and it makes things look real. It really does. It also covers a multitude of modelling sins. There's so many things you can hide by just, I'll just cover that with a bit of smudge or an airbrush blacking it, which makes it fun. So yeah, that was a resin cast kit that came out about 20 years ago.
Fantastic.
Manufactured by a guy called Randy Cooper in the States. Hopefully you're watching this, Randy. Oh, he worked on Return of the Jedi. So this is as close as you're going to get to an original film miniature because he built the small scale blockade runners for Return of the Jedi.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's one of the joys of science fiction modelling is spotting those little bits of kit sets.
Yeah.
It looks like you may have spotted something, can you? No?
No, I'm just enjoying it. Just enjoying it all.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we go from there. You start to see massive kit bashing, great kits starting to come out. And obviously what happens next is where we start seeing an influx of need, not really being met by current makers, but now there is 3D printing.
Yeah, 3D printing. Funnily enough, I remember in 1987 watching the very first episode of Star Trek: Next Generation, and their science fiction technique was they had a thing called a replicator. So you know what a replicator is.
Yeah.
Captain Picard would say, "Tea, Earl Grey, hot." His Earl Grey turns up and it's hot. I went, God, that's a bit far-fetched. I'm never going to see anything like that in my life. And then within 10 years, we had 3D printing. I was like, what? So, sadly for Captain Picard, the tea Earl Grey will take about 17 hours to actually manufacture on a 3D printer. And it'll be cold by the time he gets it. But it is actually now achievable. So, a few years back, I suddenly realised that the price of 3D printers, particularly resin 3D printers, had dropped phenomenally. And one Christmas I started looking around at what files were available online and what you could print. And basically every science fiction subject you can imagine, every wargaming, every Dungeons and Dragons. What's interesting about 3D printing is very few aircraft or tanks or real life subjects are getting converted into 3D printing. So it's very much a hobby that's driven by the fantasy and sci-fi communities.
Very much so. I think that's purely accuracy. With everything else that can kind of be fudged, but with aircraft, people really,
aircraft
really
you've
want
got to
that
be
accuracy.
absolutely spot on. So 2 years ago I thought, I'll try one of these 3D printers. And I love the Disney movie Rogue One, so my 3D printer arrived. It's like, this looks like black science or dark arts. It's like, right, so I pour the resin in here. I'll go download the file. And I found this really nice file online for the Hammerhead Corvette from Rogue One. It came in about 76 different parts. So, a bit of a learning curve, but within literally 4 hours I could start assembling this thing. Unfortunately the only 3D resin you can get in Finger Ray is this sort of semi-translucent hideous green, so when it prints out it can be quite hard to see the details, but once you give it a spray coat. I kind of started assembling it like a kit set. I printed out these parts, glued them together, then I printed out these parts, glued them together, got to this part, glued it together, found out these parts didn't fit, and went, what have I done wrong? Realised I actually resized them slightly the wrong scale, so I sorted that problem. And I got back to my nice little Rogue One. As I said earlier, I like to make models look like the filmy miniature. The weird thing about this ship, when they did it for Rogue One, is there is no filming miniature. It was all done with CGI. But they actually created it by scanning parts of other model kit sets, putting them into the computer, and then assembling it as a model inside the computer. Which I'm thinking, maybe it would just be easier if they'd actually put a model in front of it.
I think so.
But if you're a fan of the movies, there's a little section here which has little escape pods underneath it, which will scan from this section here on the filming miniature of the blockade runner, which also has the little escape pods underneath it. So there's a little bit of that ship goes into this. There's Tiger tank parts that have gone into it in the 3D creation.
Absolutely fantastic. So
yeah,
we're going back round again to kit bashing.
Yeah.
But in rather more traditional sense, that have done it all via CGI. I've previously mentioned Red Dwarf. I love Red Dwarf.
Oh yeah, Red Dwarf's great.
It's just fantastic in the way that they've kit bashed. And what I'd really hate to see is like them continue to keep on pushing this media of just purely digital kit bashing. So I do hope we see a resurgence in sci-fi of more traditional.
Funny you should say that, because the special effects on The Mandalorian are all done with models.
Wow.
They've gone back to models because they've realised they just look better. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not entirely happy with this model. I'm probably going to repaint it, because when you look at the CGI in the movie, it is a pure white, and it's got very heavy weathering on it. So I'm a little unhappy with the way the model looks, because it looks a little heavily weathered to me, but I've matched what the CGI model makers did. But it's just that weird thing. CGI often doesn't look right in a movie. It looks a little off.
Yeah.
So I've actually made a model of a CGI model that looks a little off in real life. Which I shamefully admit is a horrible achievement. So next time you see this, it will probably be repainted in a different format.
Fantastic.
But just the files you can get out there. This is one of my favourites. It's from the 1984 David Lynch version of Dune, which has been beautifully redone by the latest two movies that have come out, and there's a TV show as well. I always wanted a model of this. It was a free file. I downloaded it online. Lynch's design ethic for the movie was they're all very dark and foreboding, shades of metallic. I love doing metallic finishes and trying to weather them and just get them to look big and bulky. So I was very pleased with the way that came out. Again, completely 3D printed, hollow. Just cost me the resin because the file was free. And lastly, another Star Wars model. Don't know whether you want to do a close-up on this one later, but just to show off the detail.
That'd be great, yeah. Just move it over here.
Yeah, move it over here. So again, it's from Attack of the Clones, no, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. It's the Trade Federation frigate. I think it's called a Magnificent class. Always liked the design. Found this incredibly detailed 3D file. So I get a great joy out of weathering it. It printed super fast, super easy. But just to give you an idea of how detailed the file is, I haven't been able to glue these on because it hides all this amazing detail that's just hidden inside.
It's fantastic, yeah.
There is no way you could actually recreate that with an injection molded model. It's impossible. So yeah, that's and of course you've gone into 3D printing.
Yeah, so obviously now with Northland Lobby and by extension Model Air, we now offer 3D printing services to the public with our 6K printers. And so if you need to print certain files, come and see us or give us pass an email or catch us online on Facebook and so forth. It's fantastic. Look, thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Absolutely great. I love the original vinyls. It's nothing like them. And just seeing the evolution here, seeing the kit bashing, and like I said, it's great to learn about the Mandalorian, going back to it.
Yeah,
I just loved it. And so, fantastic little talk, and this is more of an introduction. We'll probably catch Neil later on in a future long form video. Thanks guys, see you next time.
Okay,
Thanks Neil.
But just to give you an idea of how detailed the file is, I haven't been able to glue these on because it hides all this amazing detail that's just hidden inside.
It's fantastic, yeah.
There is no way you could actually recreate that with an injection molded model. It's
No.
impossible. So yeah, that's and of course you've gone into 3D printing.
Yeah, so obviously now with Northland Hobby and by extension Model Air, we now offer 3D printing services to the public with our 6K printers. And so if you need to print certain files, come and see us or give us pass an email or catch us online on Facebook and so forth. It's fantastic. Look, thank you Neil.
Thank you.
Absolutely great. I love the original vinyls. It's nothing like them. And just seeing the evolution here, and seeing the kit bashing, and like I said, it's great to learn about the Mandalorian, going back to it.
Yeah,
I just loved it. And so, fantastic little talk, and this is more of an introduction. We'll probably catch Neil later on in a future long form video. Thanks guys, see you next time.
Okay,
Thanks
cheers.
Neil.